Welcome back, gamers, to another episode of Game Table Talk. I am here with two of my gaming group companions. So this is Kelson, and we've met Nick before in one of our previous Age of Sigmar battle reports. I am your game master, Brian. So as you can see, we've got some of the stuff laid out. We've just got done playing through the Force and Destiny starter set. I had a couple of other friends over, so we had a 4-player game. So really, I'm going to open it up to you guys first. So Nick, so tell me your thoughts on just the base system. Like, what did you think?
I really like the base system and the development of trying to go away from the regular D20, trying to sort of strike out on its own. Fantasy Flight has done a really interesting job in trying to make it definitive and something very specific to the Star Wars, to the Star Wars universe, because you look at a lot of the symbols, and anybody who's a super nerd about Star Wars can see that the symbols belong in the Star Wars universe. So it makes it very,
so as you can see, several of the dice, not your normal polyhedral dice. They have all their own specific symbols, which mean different things.
But very, very specific, and it's the small details. You can tell that these guys are Star Wars fans, understand the extended universe, and I think it's it's a good time to be a Star Wars fan.
And Fantasy Flight has put out some really great products. We own a lot of it and have played a lot of it, like Death Watch, another Fantasy Flight product. We have a lot of their board games and things like that. So, Kelson, why don't you tell me, so obviously you've had a little bit more experience with this new system that Fantasy Flight has put out, right? Because you've got the
I have the Edge of the Empire core rulebook that I've played with.
And you have the starter game for that as well?
I did have the starter game that I've run with you guys.
Yep, that's my one game that I've played.
I also ran it with some of my other friends before I ran it with you guys.
Okay.
And then I've done a little bit with the core rulebook. The core rules of how the game is played is the same. This is just more focused on Force users, what we're playing now.
And super thick, too. And the artwork is fantastic. We'll talk about that later.
And all three of the books are like that. All three of the core rule books are like that.
I've really enjoyed what they've done in the rule books and with the art and how they've presented it.
And when I just barely picked up this book before we came, last week.
Okay.
I picked up the Age of Empire as well, so now I have all three rule books.
You mean Age of Rebellion?
Age of Rebellion,
Age of Rebellion, yes, sorry. And all three of the books are excellent quality. They have everything you need to play any of those classes. From your Force users to kind of your rogues, which is more Edge of the Empire, and then Age of Rebellion has a lot more of your kind of soldiering types. It's, as the three core books are very good. The thing that I like specifically about this system is the way advantage and threat works, as well as success, failure, and triumph and despair. It really gives the storyteller and the players a very malleable way of saying combat isn't cut and dry.
Yeah, because regular D20, right, you'll roll your D20, you hit or you miss, and you just deal damage. So like this is a very cinematic-based system. Would you agree?
Yes.
Cinematic?
Well, and it helps with being able to visualize, what is happening in the fight. It becomes a little bit more visceral, and yeah, that's the huge part of Star Wars, is to be cinematic, is to be, and especially for Force and Destiny, you want to be the guy with the lightsaber who, just starts chopping through stuff, and that's the fun part. I mean, that's why we played the Old Republic MMO.
And one of the reasons why this system's so fun is you can hit and get a good attack, but at the same time leave yourself open. Or you could maybe miss an attack, but you catch them off guard enough to give the next person to attack them an advantage. I don't necessarily want to call it fluid, because it still takes some calculation, but it's very malleable. You can change the way that things happen.
So it's not the same roll, it's not the same result every time. I don't hit, I do 7 damage every time.
Well, yeah. And it's a good variable to it. I mean, and what's really nice about it is it's not cut and dry numbers. It's not cut and dry. Okay, I have to hit a 15. Well, with my added 4, 11 or better.
Yeah.
This is a little bit, this is obviously very much different in that, and surprisingly balanced, I think.
You know, and every situation is different. So depending upon what terrain you're in, if people have cover, you know, you could miss a shot from a blaster rifle, but you could hit the cover and maybe destroy it, or hit the wall behind them and knock something onto them. So just because you fail the attack, you could get the advantages or the triumphs that can give you positive stuff. Else, you know, just like you would in the movies, you know, because Star Wars is not. It's not a science fiction action movie. It's a space opera.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all about that story, all about those pivotal moments, those times when you're doing well, but they can instantly turn around. You know, give advantage to the enemies, or the same thing can, you know, it can go either way at either time.
And on that note, you also have the triumph and despair. So something epically good could happen out of whatever you're trying to do. Like, say you're trying to charm someone and you get a triumph. They are essentially in your control because it's just so good. It's like you've done your job so well. And on the flip side, despair, like you're just aiming for that shot and something malfunctions in your blaster and your blaster just fails to operate and something combusts in it and your blaster just
Blows up in your
unusable
face.
again.
Blows up in your face. Well, and specifically, so to kind of shift subjects, for the class system in Force and Destiny, I was really impressed that not every class, even though you're a Force user, you don't necessarily use a lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other classes that focus in on different things and bring more of that different aspect to Star Wars that you don't really see in a lot of the other games. Especially in the previous edition, like you kind of stuck out like a sore thumb if you wanted to play a Force user and didn't use a lightsaber.
You know, because this takes place like during episodes like 4, 5, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a lot of play right there, and obviously, like you can't just walking around wearing the robes and the hood and rolling around using your force powers and your lightsaber. Like that's going to get you noticed by the Empire, and they're going to hunt you down. So you're going to have to run from Inquisitors, and Stormtroopers are going to hunt you down, and people are like superstitious, and they're like, oh, what is this they're using? They're going to call, you know, the Empire on you kind of thing, so you kind of have to be a little stealthy.
Oh yeah, well, and what's really nice is using the extended universe to kind of talk to that, because usually when we talk about, you know, episode 4, 5, and 6, it's all revolving around Luke and Darth Vader talking about Force users. What's really nice with the new extended universe with Rebels, with a lot of the other stuff that's coming out, we can kind of talk about there's other Force users. There's other guys who are sensitive to the Force. It's just sometimes we tend to focus just on the last 2 Sith and the 1 remaining Jedi. You know, and that's what I really like about it, is it brings that flavor of gray area.
Because the galaxy's huge.
Yeah.
So it's not just Luke, it's not just Vader and the Emperor, you know. Just, you know, as a side note, because I'm thinking of running a game, I really like the whole, like, you're kind of like on the run, you're hidden. It's this time where maybe the Force is kind of drawing you together through your destinies, and it's kind of pulling you together to come together and maybe attempt to, you know, bring back the Jedi Order in a small way to be able to expand. Because, you know, the Rebels, you know, maybe they're getting some wins, they're pushing back the Empire and things like that. You're gonna be able to, okay, let's really start bringing the Jedi and bringing the Force back to the galaxy, like in small portions.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, like Luke tries to do, like later on after Episode 6. But you
Yeah.
could play your own kind of story with your own characters, trying to do that same role.
What's really nice is in the back of this, it has a complete history of all the Force users. So, playing in this time period, wonderful, great. If you're having fun, that's great. But as a DM, as a storyteller, if you want to go to a different time period, you want to talk about the hyperspace wars, you want to talk about, right at the beginning of the Rule of Two with Darth Bane, 100 Years of Darkness. You can do all of those things because, and yeah, you do have to kind of fudge around with a couple of the naming of the vehicles or naming of the enemies, but what's really nice is they provide you that opportunity.
Which is cool.
I did want to go back to kind of the way the book puts the characters together. They have very nice skill trees, and this is actually a force power tree, and as you can see, it's very simple to use. You just kind of upgrade in a line, and it's it's very slick, and you can tell they put a lot of thought and time into these books.
Well, especially I like the idea of career and specialization. It's it's a lot, it's a lot easier than trying to do a class and then like prestiging into something.
Yes.
You
Oh
know,
yes.
With this, it's nicely done so that you're like, okay, I want to play this class, this specialization. Somebody else could play that same class, but a different specialization,
And be
come up with two
completely
different
different,
characters.
Or play the same career, the same specialization, but then choose differently on their path. So as he showed one, so here's an example like the aggressor from the warrior career. We can get it in there pretty good. As you can see, it's very, if anybody that's played an MMO, like talent trees, like you'll get experience points and you go through. So as an example, if you buy here, it has lines, you can only buy what's connected to it. So it's like strategic on how you spend your experience to get to where you want to go. If you want to get down here, you'll go, oh, I could just go straight down, or I can kind of spend some extra experience and kind of hump around here and then get there. So everybody, even if someone plays the same career, same specialization, could build their character completely different, serve potentially two different roles, two different abilities, two different purposes in the play.
I just found that incredibly, like, as far as role-playing games that we've played, I find it very unique to this system. Like, the system is very unique in itself, but I find that kind of lends itself more towards people that play video games like MMOs or RPG-style video games. It's very visual, and it makes it very simple instead of having to dig through, like, well, I need this on 4 pages back, okay.
No,
This has a prerequisite as well?
Not even 4 pages back. A completely different book. Like
that too, yeah.
The ability I need is in this book over here. Let me go get my library. What's really nice with this is you can have a really good game just by out of the core rule book.
Because there's a ton. Because there's all those extra force trees.
There's healings. There's tanks. Out of any of the 3 core rule books, you can run a complete campaign and still keep it in that core rule book. Keep the party balanced. And if that's your playstyle, you can do that with each of the core rule books. You don't need the previous books to do that, and that's nice.
And also, the 3 core rule books, you can, because it's the same type here, potentially you could have this different characters from different books woven into the same story.
Not only that, but the races in the books are all different. You can pick a race out of one book and a class out of a different book.
I think there's a couple of them that they keep pretty standard, like maybe the Twi'leks and the humans.
The Twi'leks and the humans, I believe, are in all 3.
But like Age of Empire has droids.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's in Age of Rebellion.
And obviously, droids can't use the Force, so a droid couldn't necessarily be in Force and Destiny, but there are other races.
Right. I mean, for a droid, you'd have to go with, Assassin or something else like that. But yeah, it was that's what I really liked.
This book has Zabrak in it, and you could do a Zabrak smuggler. And it's very simple, because all you do is say, okay, the bonuses of the Zabrak are in this book, all of my other class information is going to be in that other book.
And if you're willing to get all the books for that class and have that part of the game, that's fun. That's pretty awesome.
So speaking of classes and races, let's just take a look at some of the, in our other video, like my What's in the Box, I looked at the four characters. So who did you have?
I had the Seeker.
So you had the
And
Seeker.
I had the Defender?
The Guardian?
Or Guardian?
Okay.
Yes.
So Nick, why don't you start? So talk about this character.
Okay, well with Kaveri, the Seeker, she is a how did we say that it was supposed to be Togruta?
Yeah, Togruta.
Which is Ahsoka Tano from anybody who's ever seen the Clone Wars. That's their race. With the Seeker doesn't use any lightsaber.
Yeah, she just has the blaster
Just
rifle,
has
right?
the blaster rifle, and it has the stats for punching people. And that's it. But with her force powers is obviously looking around, being force sensitive to everything that's around, understanding what life forms are there.
She has sense, right?
Sense, yeah, she has sense, which is pretty intriguing as far as a force user, being more aware of the situations. You can obviously see that this is range DPS. I mean, for anybody who's played MMOs, a range DPS, somebody who's far away, able to do damage, kind of squishy up close.
Yeah.
And this was a fun character to play because you have that heavy blaster rifle, and 9 base damage, and every success after that is added damage to that. That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it does a lot of damage. A lot of times you were one shot most things you hit.
Yeah.
Most of the adversaries.
Yeah, and then if I did any critical damage, then it was just
Oh yeah.
they're done. They're done.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kelsey, let's talk about the Guardian.
I had Serendra the Guardian, a human female Guardian, is the kind of Jedi class. She had some really fun things. The first thing I'd like to say is lightsabers are amazing, and rightfully so. Lightsabers should be great.
Yeah.
They negate 10 soak, which means all damage done, especially in low levels like this, is pretty much true damage.
Oh, yeah.
They don't get to negate any of that damage. In the end, I pretty much soloed the boss while they dealt with the ads, with that extra penetrative damage. And it worked, and one other reason was because you start out with a base, and then you flip the page halfway through the adventure for kind of a mini level up. You get a little experience to
You
spend.
get 10 experience points to spend.
And I got Parry, which let me take some strain damage.
3 strains.
I would take 3 strain and negate 3 physical damage. And that helped me tank the boss.
Yep.
And then with the lightsaber skill that she's got and the penetrative ability of the lightsaber damage, it really dealt well for dealing with a boss type character in melee combat. I was negating damage. I almost knocked myself out because I was taking so much strain.
From parrying his attacks.
But that strain recovers very quick. It's much less dire than physical damage.
Because you can use advantages to regain some strain. Plus you regain all of your strain at the end of an encounter. Or is it equal?
It's your presence.
Yeah, equal to your presence rating. So whatever your presence attribute
Which is, mine was at 3, so after each encounter I'd take 3. I had a max of 12 that I could take, which I really didn't get anywhere close to until that final encounter.
Yeah.
Well, and what's really nice is if you at least don't have any successes, if you have some advantages, you can use that to take away. It's 1-to-1, so 1 advantage takes away 1 strain. So during a round, yeah, you might miss them, but you might also get some strain back. So the next time you come around, you can still do stuff.
Or you can hang in the fight longer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
very few rolls you guys had did nothing happen.
Yeah.
Most of
you
those
didn't
were
hit,
mine.
you didn't get anything happen. Like somebody at least had some advantages, was able to do something, or maybe even the enemies they might miss, but they had advantage. Or you guys might have had
Or they missed
threats.
the threat.
So
Yeah.
the detrimental stuff would happen to you. So it's there's always something going on almost all the time for every roll. So it's not just like, do I attack, hit, nope, okay, turn over.
All right.
It's always something that's going on.
We're
Which
going
is
out for
really
coffee,
cool.
guys.
Especially if you got 4 people playing, somebody needs to go to the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
So would you guys play this kind of class? Not this exact character, but would you play a Seeker?
I would play. Well, a Seeker is, you look at a lot of the advantages. The Seeker is basically ranged and being able to find the enemy. I haven't played I played a few ranged characters, and I enjoy it. I think for a Seeker, especially being a Force user that doesn't necessarily use a lightsaber, but I could use a lightsaber and still do pretty good.
It's just this character did not come equipped with a lightsaber.
Yeah, she didn't come equipped with a lightsaber, but I obviously do better with a ranged heavy weapon. But it doesn't mean by any means mean that I'm not proficient with a lightsaber.
Because your dice pool was 1 yellow and 3 green.
Yeah, which is amazing.
And me coming equipped as the main weapon, I only had 2 yellow and 1 green.
Yeah.
So which is actually slightly better
Oh, yeah.
than 1 yellow and 3 green. So anybody that's played the game before will know what we're talking about. If not, obviously, pick this up, take a look at it.
Yeah, and what I did with mine is, when we spent that 10 XP, I turned mine into 2 yellow and 2 green, and I didn't miss a lot.
I turned the page
I
and it
did
gives
a
you
lot
some
of
upgrade
crits
options.
with that, and that overall, you obviously have to look at the skill trees and everything else, but overall, I think the Seeker is a really good addition to a Force user game.
And this is coming from someone who likes to be melee in the fight.
I do like melee. I do like being in there, but
that just gives it a little bit more.
yeah,
He,
right.
he can be very much the monk. I mean,
yeah.
the mystic. Seriously.
Yeah. How many monks I've
I
had
know
over the years?
I know we looked at this in the what's in the box of this. This dude seriously looks like a monk
He does.
from 3rd edition, 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons, bred with a Zabrak.
Yeah,
Like, not even-
yeah, that's exactly
I mean,
it.
I'm sorry, and to me he looks like a firebender.
And what was
Yes.
Firebender?
He looks like a
You know,
firebender.
and what I didn't let the players pick their character. I just randomly, we had a random allocation, so they kind of got what they got.
Well, in the Mystic, I think the Mystic not only becomes more force user heavy, but I think the Mystic can also go into like healing.
Yeah, so it
I
looks
assume.
like so he actually has 2 force powers to start with. So he has sense and he has move
Yeah.
that he gets access to. So he's, let's see, he's got. I mean, he doesn't have the big chunk stats like except for like coercion,
Yeah.
like
Which
he's
he
got-
failed terribly.
even with a boost die.
Yeah.
But that's why the game uses dice, right? But obviously, upgrading your skills gives you that better advantage. And he has a walking stick. Like, very rarely, you never hear of Jedi walking around with a walking stick. Obviously, Yoda did, but he had a lightsaber as well. But,
But it definitely looks like as you'd play that type of a class into the late game, you'd be a heavy
Yeah.
caster style.
Heavy caster, but even with the lightsaber, three green is nothing to
yeah, I mean,
sneeze at.
he has no ranks in it, so obviously, if he ranked up lightsaber, he would have a yellow and 2 green, which is still really good.
Well, and his melee does pretty well too. So
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, he can punch it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's got his walking stick, it's not bad. It does 5 damage plus 1 damage per success symbol rolled. Yeah, I think that's just rolled, so however many you rolled,
Oh,
yeah,
as long
that's
as you
what I assume.
succeed.
So yeah,
Just other games, you have to spin one to
spend one
confirm
to
the hit.
yeah, right.
And then moving into my character, I would definitely play a character like this again.
So if I ran a campaign, would you play a guardian?
It's tempting. There's so many good options.
There are,
But
but
the
really
Guardian
good
is good. The Guardian is very good and tempting.
Let's see.
Being, especially with this short campaign, being able to, once we gotta spend XP, either upgrade my cool, which is how well you keep your cool, so it's very good for not falling into a trap or something like, or in a dire situation, just keeping your head down. Also came with parry, which let me negate melee damage, reflect, which let me negate range damage,
Like a consular.
or I could upgrade the force power, which I had enhance,
Does he
which
have healing?
Oh, yeah,
enhance
that healer. Oh, maybe I.
enhance kind of just let me boost my physical skills. So I could jump really high, which I couldn't get the force points to use to do it. But I mean, it's a nice addition. But the force, it's not a caster class.
Yeah. No.
It's very much just get in there. It's a really good tank because you can soak a lot of damage, and you can put out damage because the pen on the lightsaber.
And I like the design for it because, anybody says the word knight, I mean, the first thing I jump to is, medieval knights in armor, and so the Guardian, with the lightsaber and armor and everything else, I just think they look really cool with that.
Yeah, so if we just look at, this is a really good example, like this guy here with the blue lightsaber. Like, he's a really cool, he's got the long cloak, he's got the armor.
Yeah, I mean, that looks really
Oh, the
cool.
armored cloaks are really good
Yeah,
if you can
I
get
mean,
them.
And that's seriously reminiscent of, anybody plays Knights of the Old Republic, it's serious reminiscent of a lot of that stuff. And that's really, I really enjoy that. I think adding all these different elements from the extended universe.
So just to kind of wrap things up, obviously we talked a lot about the starter game. We've talked a little bit about what's in the book. We don't want to dig too deep until we're able to really sink our teeth into it. So we're probably going to get some games over the next few weeks. Like, what's cool, there's an adventure in the back of the book. I would kind of like to run, just to give a little more experience under the belt as a GM with it. Obviously, Nick is thinking of doing. So, kind of give us a quick overview of your idea for a game.
My idea for a game, I obviously love Old Republic. I was thinking of doing, very small, 3 or 4 session Old Republic game using this system. And, there's certain things that aren't going to be exact, but, just using a couple of house rules, and I think it could be a really good game.
Yeah, like you said before, fudges some names on some ships.
Some names, because, here's the stats for a TIE fighter. Oh, no, this is a Sith Interceptor.
Well, and the thing about these rule books they have a lot of tools for a GM in the back. You've got different pre-made enemies that you can just like, oh, there's like 3 of these guys.
3 of these guys.
3 soldiers. They even have Inquisitors.
Yeah,
Which you could essentially interchange with mid-level Sith.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things that I'm kind of working out, what I want to do as far as a story, as far as what we do for RP wise, but I really think it could be something really special and something I really look forward to.
Excellent. All right, so that's going to about do us here for this episode of Game Table Talk. Here with Nick and Kelson. So we've got this under our belt. We're going to come back with another episode on Star Wars, probably here in the next few weeks, once we're able to get a little more games under our belt and more experience. We'll talk more about the core rules itself. We'll talk about the different classes, the rules as we dig deeper into it, about the game mechanics itself. Maybe if we get Nick to get his game up and running, we can kind of see how this Old Republic scenario is going, what he would like to do differently, what went well, things like that. But until then, remember, put some comments down below. Remember to like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And we'll see you again next time in the Game Master's Dungeon.